Far out on the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy, where light from nearby stars shimmered like silver dust, a colony world named Vanguard 9 spun quietly beneath a red sun. It was small, peaceful, and mostly forgotten, except by the humans who called it home. To the colonists, life meant farming, mining, and surviving on the frontier. But for the Zereth Dominion, an intergalactic empire known for its cruelty, Vanguard 9 was simply a target, another world to conquer and add to their long list of trophies. Across the void of space, fleets began to gather. Thousands of alien warships, sleek, shining, and armed with energy weapons powerful enough to vaporize moons, moved into formation. The Grand Armada of the Zereth Dominion had arrived. Their purpose was simple: destroy the human colony, prove their strength, and remind the galaxy who ruled it. Inside the command vessel Zereth Ascendant, Lord Vecra, the Supreme Commander, watched holograms flicker before him. The human planet glowed faintly on the display, blue, green, and fragile-looking. He smirked. "Is this what they fear?" he said, his voice low and amused. "A handful of mammals clinging to a rock?" His officers laughed. To them, humanity was an odd rumor, a young species from a backwater spiral arm, too small to matter. Yet somehow humans had resisted every invasion attempt before. The Dominion had lost fleets to strange tactics and mysterious disappearances. But Lord Vecra believed he knew the reason. Luck. Luck would not save them this time. "Prepare the bombardment fleet," he ordered. "We will erase this Vanguard 9 and send the wreckage back to Earth as a warning." His officers saluted, their armor glinting in the light of alien suns. On Vanguard 9's surface, beneath the cracked blue sky, the colonists knew they were outnumbered. Emergency sirens echoed across the settlement domes. The Planetary Defense Council gathered in the underground command center, their faces pale with worry. The colony's leader, Governor Elias Trent, spoke calmly but firmly. "They're coming in force. We cannot hold them alone, but help is on its way." A young communications officer looked up from her console. "Sir, are you sure?" "We've lost contact with the Terran fleet for weeks." Governor Trent nodded slowly. "I'm sure. Earth doesn't forget its people." His words were hopeful, but his eyes told another story. The last transmission from Earth had been faint, a simple message: "Hold your ground." No one knew if reinforcements would ever arrive. Above them, in the cold emptiness of space, something vast moved silently. Hidden behind the dark side of Vanguard 9's moon floated a ship unlike any ever built, a shadow among the stars. It was the UNS Titan's Wrath. Over 20 kilometers long, wrapped in black armor that bent light around it, the ship looked more like a piece of space itself than metal. Inside its hull, hundreds of crew members worked in quiet focus. Every console hummed softly, every screen glowed blue, and the heart of the ship, a massive quantum core, pulsed with restrained power. At the center of it all stood Admiral Helena Graves, a woman of calm authority. Her eyes were sharp, her voice steady, her presence enough to quiet even the youngest ensign. She had fought in the first contact wars, seen the fall of human colonies, and learned one truth above all others: humanity never bows. Beside her stood Aura, the ship's artificial intelligence. A glowing form of light and code, Aura's voice carried both warmth and logic. "Admiral," she said softly, "Zereth forces are now within striking range of Vanguard 9. Estimated fleet strength, 7,000 warships." Helena raised an eyebrow. "That many? They must really want us gone." "Affirmative," Aura replied. "They have no idea we're here." Helena turned toward the viewing window. Through it, the colony's red sun gleamed faintly. In the distance, she could already see the glow of approaching enemy engines, like fireflies in the night. Except each carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Her crew waited for orders. Helena spoke quietly, but her words carried through every deck. "Activate silent running. No signals, no lights. Let them think we're gone." Her second officer frowned. "Ma'am, are we not engaging yet?" She shook her head. "No, not yet. Let's see what they do first." The bridge fell into a tense silence. Outside, the Zereth Armada moved closer, their formation tightening like a clenched fist. Hours passed. Then, without warning, the first barrage began. From orbit, the Zereth ships opened fire. Torrents of plasma and ion storms rained down upon Vanguard 9's shields. The planet shook. Surface defenses flared weakly, returning fire that barely scratched the enemy hulls. In the command bunker, Governor Trent clutched the table as explosions thundered above.
"How long can the shields hold?"
he shouted. 5 minutes, maybe less, cried the defense chief. They're hitting us with everything they have. And still no help came. But then, deep in the void, Titan's wrath stirred. The ship's dark hull rippled with faint blue light. Its massive cannons turned silently, aligning with the enemy fleet. Systems awakened one by one. Aura's voice filled the bridge. All systems operational. Power levels stable. Quantum core at 97%. Helena stared at the tactical map. Thousands of red dots glowed. Enemy ships surrounding the planet like a swarm. Her ship was one single blue dot alone in the darkness. Her first officer spoke nervously. "Ma'am, the colony's shields are collapsing. We need to act." Helena nodded slowly. "I know." She pressed a button, opening a private comm channel, a frequency so old the aliens would never recognize it. Her voice carried across space, calm and unwavering. "This is Admiral Helena Graves of the United Nations ship Titan's Wrath. All human vessels, hold position. Civilians, stay underground. We are not defeated." On the colony, the message brought a spark of hope. People lifted their heads. Soldiers in bunkers straightened their backs. Somewhere a child whispered, "The fleet came." But in the alien flagship, Lord Vecra's expression darkened as he heard the signal. "So they still resist," he hissed. He turned to his lieutenants. "Find the source of that transmission. Burn them out of the sky." As the Dominion ships turned their sensors toward the moon, their scanners showed nothing. Just empty rock and space. No trace of a ship. And yet, in that emptiness, the Titan's wrath prepared. Yura's voice was steady. Weapons charged. Enemy fleet within firing solution. Helena looked out into the endless dark. Her hand hovered over the command console, but she didn't press it yet. "Not yet," she whispered. "They think they understand power. Let's see how wrong they are." Through the darkness, the first enemy cruiser broke orbit and began targeting the colony directly. Its cannons glowed red. Helena watched silently. The alien fleet commander's voice crackled over public channels, arrogant and sure. "Humanity, your time has ended. Surrender and your deaths will be swift." For a moment there was silence. Then the humans answered with a message of their own, clear, short, and carried on an ancient Earth frequency. "Let them come." Helena's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. In that instant, Titan's Wrath stopped being just a ship. It became something else. The quiet promise of an entire species that had survived every war, every extinction, and every threat the universe had thrown at them. And as the stars burned above Vanguard 9, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The storm had arrived. But humanity was ready. The alien armada had arrived in full force. Across the Black Sea of space, the Zereth Dominion ships formed a wall of light, thousands of glowing engines and weapon arrays shining like stars. Their power was unmatched, their confidence absolute. To them, humanity was already finished. From the flagship Zereth Ascendant, Lord Vecra watched the distant blue planet called Vanguard 9, now wrapped in flames. The bombardment had begun. Plasma waves fell like comets, tearing through the colony's atmosphere. City domes cracked and shields burned white-hot. The alien officers cheered as explosions filled their screens. "It is over," one of them said proudly. Vecra leaned back in his command chair, his eyes gleaming. "They thought they could challenge us. But they will learn what true power looks like." He raised a hand. "Continue the bombardment. No survivors." The alien fleets adjusted formation, preparing for the final strike, when suddenly all weapon fire across the entire battlefront stopped. Every plasma cannon froze mid-charge. Every targeting system flickered and died. "Report," Vecra barked. "Unknown interference, my lord," shouted an officer. "Our systems, they just stopped responding." A strange pulse moved through the void, silent yet powerful. Dominion ships trembled as energy readings spiked and sensors went blind, and then, through every open communication channel, a voice spoke, calm, human. "Power without precision is nothing." The voice was unmistakable. Admiral Helena Graves. Every Dominion officer turned in shock. They scanned the skies but saw nothing. The humans were invisible. Behind Vanguard 9's moon, hidden in the blackness of space, the UNS Titan's Wrath awakened fully. Inside the warship, every deck glowed with soft blue light. Engineers worked quietly, hands steady even as the monitors displayed the overwhelming number of enemy ships ahead. Ura, the ship's artificial intelligence, appeared beside Helena in a shimmering human-like form. "All systems are now synchronized," she said. "Weapons ready. Shield stable. Stealth field holding." Helena nodded slowly. "Good. Keep the stealth online until I say otherwise. Let's see how far their arrogance goes." Her first officer, Commander Ren Duran, frowned as he looked at the tactical map. "Ma'am, there are over 7,000 enemy vessels out there. Our odds are—" Helena cut him off gently. "Don't say it. Numbers don't win wars, Commander. People do." The crew smiled faintly at her words. In that moment, fear was replaced with quiet determination. Down on the planet, the bombardment had stopped. The colonists looked up at the sky through cracks in the clouds. The silence felt heavy and strange. Governor Trent received the transmission and smiled in disbelief. "It's them," he whispered. "The Titan's wrath is real." The civilians in underground shelters cheered softly. For the first time, they had hope. Meanwhile, confusion spread among the Zereth Dominion ranks. "My lord," one of Vecra's tacticians said nervously, "we are detecting a gravitational anomaly near the moon. Something large, extremely large, but it's not reflecting light." Vecra's eyes narrowed. "A ship? Possibly, but the readings make no sense. The object bends sensors around itself. Find it," Vecra snapped. "I want visual confirmation now." Dozens of drones launched toward the moon. They scanned, pulsed, and searched the darkness, and found nothing. Just cold silence. Inside the Titan's wrath, Helena stood before the great viewing window. The moon's gray curve glowed beneath the starlight. Beyond it, the Dominion fleet loomed like a storm cloud ready to strike. Aura's voice broke the silence. "Admiral, the enemy fleet is attempting to triangulate our position. They are spreading reconnaissance drones. Probability of discovery, 34%. Helena took a deep breath. Then it's time to remind them who they're dealing with. "Orders? Power up the main rail battery." "Single shot." Ren Duran turned sharply. "Ma'am, a single shot won't be enough to—" Helena gave him a look that silenced him. "One shot is all we'll need." The bridge lights dimmed as the ship's massive cannon charged. Energy levels rose so high that even the hull began to hum softly, vibrating like a living thing. Aura monitored the numbers carefully. "Quantum reactor at 98%. Containment stable." Helena's voice was calm. "Target the lead battleship, the Zereth Ascendant." On the Dominion flagship, alarms began to ring. "My lord," cried a technician. Something just appeared behind the moon. Vecra leaned forward. "Show me." The hologram shifted, and for a split second they saw it, a shadow larger than any known vessel. Then it vanished again, hidden by stealth fields. What was that? "No match in any database." And then, before anyone could answer, the stars themselves seemed to blink. The Titan's wrath fired. No explosion. No thunder. No sound. Just a single beam of blue-white light, narrow, pure, and faster than thought, crossing the void between moon and fleet. It sliced through the Zereth Ascendant as if the ship were made of mist. The beam didn't stop. It passed through 6 more battleships, leaving glowing holes that turned into expanding clouds of fire and gas. In 1 second, the heart of the Dominion Armada was gone. Helena stood still, watching quietly. "Confirm kills." Aura's voice remained calm. 7 confirmed. Collateral damage spreading through enemy lines. Energy wave has disabled communications on at least 200 additional vessels. Helena's face did not change. "Begin recharging sequence. Prepare for another shot." Panic erupted among the Dominion fleets. "What happened?" shouted one commander. "Who attacked us?" "Unknown weapon. Massive energy signature. We've lost the Ascendant." Lord Vecra struggled to steady himself as his flagship shuddered, alarms flashing red around him. The view outside showed debris where once a proud fleet had floated. "No, this is impossible," he whispered. Nothing could do this. His second-in-command turned pale. "My lord, it's the humans." "It must be." Vecra slammed his clawed hand on the console. "Find them. Destroy them." But deep down, he knew the truth. Whatever weapon humanity had built, it was beyond anything in the known galaxy. On board Titan's Wrath, the crew watched silently as sensor data rolled in. Ships were retreating. Entire squadrons were scattering in panic. Commander Wren looked at Helena with awe. "Ma'am, I've never seen anything like that." Helena gave a small smile. "That's because there's nothing like it." "Not yet," he hesitated. "Do you think they'll come back?" "They always do," Helena said softly. "But next time they'll come with fear in their hearts." She turned to Aura. "Open a wide-frequency transmission. Make sure every ship in range hears it." Aura nodded. "Channel open." Helena's voice echoed through the void, reaching every ship, every planet within the system. "This is Admiral Helena Graves of the United Nations ship Titan's Wrath. To the Zareth Dominion, and to any who watch, humanity does not seek war. But if you bring war to our worlds, know this." She paused. Her eyes were cold and steady. "We will not surrender. We will not kneel. And when we strike only once." The message ended. Silence returned. On the Dominion ships, that silence was heavier than any weapon. Captains argued, soldiers trembled, and Lord Vecra sat in disbelief. The mighty Dominion, rulers of 1,000 systems, had been humbled in seconds. He whispered to himself, "How could one human ship do this?" No one answered. Meanwhile, down on Vanguard 9, the bombardment had stopped completely. The colonists emerged from shelters to see the sky filled not with fire, but with drifting debris glowing softly like stars. Governor Trent stood outside the command bunker and whispered, "They did it. They actually did it." Children pointed to the night sky where a streak of blue light still faded into darkness. They didn't understand what had happened, but they felt something, Katir. Pride. Humanity was no longer the small, weak race the galaxy thought it was. They had shown what true strength meant. Not endless fire, but perfect control. Back aboard the Titan's Wrath, Helena sat quietly in her command chair. The ship floated in shadow, hidden once more behind the moon. Commander Wren approached her. "Ma'am, the fleet is falling back." "They won't attack again tonight." Helena nodded. "Good, let them run. Fear will teach them faster than destruction." Aura's voice came softly. "Admiral, the galaxy will remember this day." Helena looked out at the stars, endless, bright, and full of possibilities. "Yes," she said quietly, "but this is only the beginning." The ship's engines pulsed gently, fading into silence once again. The great warship returned to watchful stillness, unseen but ever ready. And far across the galaxy, whispers began. Whispers of a race that had fired once and rewritten the meaning of power. The wreckage of the Zareth Dominion fleet drifted silently across space like a graveyard of metal. The stars shone through broken hulls and shattered engines. The proud armada that had once darkened the sky of Vanguard 9 was now scattered debris glimmering in the cold void. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most feared empire had been struck, and struck down, by a single human ship. The UNS Titan's Wrath floated quietly behind the moon, its hull black as night. Inside, the crew worked in silence. The battle had lasted only minutes, but everyone felt the weight of what they had just witnessed. Commander Wren Duran stood beside Admiral Helena Graves, watching sensor readings. The enemy fleet signals were fading fast. Some ships had gone dark. Others were fleeing at full speed, their engines burning as they vanished into the stars. Wren let out a slow breath. "Ma'am, we just destroyed their main armada." "I don't think they'll come back." Helena didn't smile. Her eyes remained on the data screen, cold and focused. "They'll come back," she said softly. "Empires never learn from fear. They only learn from defeat." Aura, the ship's artificial intelligence, appeared beside them in her soft blue light. "Admiral," she said, "enemy communications indicate multiple distress calls. Nearby Dominion fleets are responding. Reinforcements may arrive within 4 hours." Helena nodded slowly. "Then we have 4 hours to prepare." Meanwhile, deep in the debris field, a single Dominion ship still burned but remained alive. It was the Zareth's Oath, commanded by Captain Drelkor, one of Lord Vecra's surviving officers. Inside, smoke filled the control deck. The crew scrambled to restore power while alarms screamed. Drelkor slammed a clawed hand onto the console. "Get communications up." "I need to warn the command worlds." An officer hesitated. "Sir, the human ship—" "I know." Drelkor snapped. "Find it!" "I want to know what we're dealing with." But their scanners showed nothing. The Titan's Wrath was gone. Not destroyed, not retreated, simply gone. What kind of weapon could do this? Another officer whispered. 7 ships in one shot. It's not possible. Drelkor stared out the cracked viewing glass at the wreckage. "You still don't understand," he muttered. "They didn't just fire a weapon. They sent a message." On Vanguard 9, the colonists began to emerge from shelters. The red sky above was now calm. Pieces of alien ships fell through the upper atmosphere like shooting stars. Children pointed at them in wonder, while engineers worked quickly to restore power. The colony was damaged but alive. Governor Elias Trent stood outside the command center, looking up at the sky. "They saved us," he whispered. "One ship saved us all," he turned to his aide. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them humanity stands tall, and we are not alone anymore." In the command deck of Titan's Wrath, the crew was already preparing for another encounter. Engineers calibrated weapons, technicians ran system checks, and pilots monitored enemy signals. Helena walked slowly across the bridge, her boots clicking softly on the metal floor. Her crew saluted her as she passed. She nodded to each one. She didn't need to speak. Her presence alone gave them courage. Aura's voice echoed softly. "Admiral, long-range scans detect debris movement. Multiple enemy vessels attempting to regroup. Estimated strength 300 ships," Wren frowned. "After what happened to their armada, they still dare to fight?" Helena's voice was calm. "They'll fight because they have to. They can't return home defeated." Aura tilted her glowing head. "Shall I ready the main cannon again?" Helena shook her head. "No, not yet. We'll let them see us first." Wren looked surprised. "You want to reveal our position?" "Yes," Helena said. "They saw our power, but they didn't understand it. Now they need to hear us." As the Titan's Wrath moved out from behind the moon, its black armor reflected the faint light of the sun. The ship emerged like a shadow taking shape, vast and silent. On the remaining Dominion ships, panic spread once again. "Something's appearing from behind the moon. Size unknown. Larger than any vessel on record. Energy levels rising." Their voices filled the comms with panic. On his damaged ship, Captain Drelkor watched as the human warship appeared before him. It moved with perfect grace, every line of its design built for both beauty and destruction. He felt his breath catch. "That's no ship," he whispered. "That's a warning." Then across every open frequency, a voice filled the airwaves. "This is Admiral Helena Graves of the United Nations ship Titan's Wrath. To the Zareth Dominion fleet, stand down and retreat. You are in violation of human space." Her words were calm, but they carried power. Even the static in the signal seemed to vibrate with command. On the Dominion ships, officers hesitated. None dared to respond. But Captain Drelkor, bruised and bloodied, reached for his comm. "Admiral Graves," he said slowly, his voice rough. You destroyed our fleet. What gives you the right to speak of peace after such power?" There was silence for a moment. Then Helena's voice returned, quiet but firm. "The right of survival. The right to protect what is ours. We didn't come looking for war, Captain. But when war found us, we answered." Her voice softened slightly. "Leave now. Take your survivors and go home. Tell your leaders that humanity does not seek conquest, but we do not forgive invasion." Drelkor's hands trembled. He wanted to argue, to shout, to show strength. But as he looked at the glowing hull of Titan's Wrath, he saw the truth. This was not anger. This was control. He bowed his head slowly. "I will deliver your message." The transmission ended. The remaining Dominion ships began to retreat. Slowly, one by one, they turned away, their engines flaring as they fled the system. On board the Titan's Wrath, the crew watched the sensor screens as enemy signals disappeared into the void. Wren turned to Helena, his voice soft. "They're leaving. You did it." Helena shook her head. "No, Commander, we did it. Humanity did it." For a long moment, no one spoke. The bridge was silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's core. Aura's voice finally broke the stillness. "Admiral, the galaxy will spread word of this day. You have changed how they see us." Helena smiled faintly. "Good. Let them see us as we truly are." Far away in the Dominion capital, Lord Vecra sat in his private chamber. The transmission of the battle replayed before him again and again. The beam of light, the explosion, the human warship emerging from shadow. His advisors stood nervously behind him. One spoke softly. "My lord, the council demands an explanation. The loss of the Ascendant. The defeat of our armada." Vecra's hands clenched. "The humans," he whispered. "They were supposed to be weak." "They are not weak, my lord." "No," Vecra said, rising slowly. They are something else entirely. He turned toward the stars beyond his window. Begin preparations. If humanity has such weapons, then the Dominion must have more. We will rebuild, we will learn, and we will return. But deep inside, fear lingered, the kind that even pride could not hide. Back on Titan's Wrath, the crew finally relaxed. The threat was gone, at least for now. Helena sat quietly in her chair watching the stars. She could feel the weight of what they had done, not just the destruction, but the message they had sent. Ren approached her carefully. "Ma'am," he said, "what happens now?" Helena looked out at the distant light of Vanguard 9. "Now," she said softly, "we rebuild. We prepare. And we wait. For what?" "For the next storm," she replied. Aura appeared beside her, her voice gentle. "Do you believe they will come again?" Helena nodded. "Yes, but when they do, the galaxy will already know what happens when humanity fights back." The AI paused, then spoke with quiet pride. "The galaxy will remember this ship." Helena smiled faintly. "Then let them remember what we stood for." Hours later, as Titan's Wrath drifted above the peaceful blue world of Vanguard 9, a final message was sent across the galaxy, encrypted, old, and simple. To all human colonies, Vanguard 9 stands. The Dominion has fallen back. The warship Titan's Wrath has spoken once, and the galaxy has listened. On Earth, that message would spread through every city and outpost. On distant stations and mining worlds, people would look up at the stars with pride. For the first time, humanity was no longer just surviving. They were being feared, and as the great ship continued its silent patrol, its shadow passing through the light of the red sun, Admiral Helena Graves closed her eyes for a moment. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, but humanity had found its voice. And when that warship spoke, the stars themselves listened. The battle in the cold void of space had not ended with the first human strike. It had only begun. The Dominion forces were broken but not gone. Hundreds of ships still floated in confusion, their systems damaged, their commanders shouting for orders. Yet even in their fear, their arrogance refused to die. Lord Vecra, the Dominion commander, stood on the cracked bridge of his flagship Eternal Flame. Sparks flickered across shattered consoles, and the once bright banners of his empire hung torn and burned. His eyes blazed with fury and disbelief. How can one ship do this?" he growled. "We are the Dominion. We rule thousands of worlds. They are just humans." No one dared to answer. The crew had seen what happened. The human warship had fired only once, and in that single moment, entire fleets had vanished. It was not just a weapon, it was a statement. But Vecra's pride could not accept it. "Prepare the second wave," he commanded coldly. "We will crush them, even if it takes every ship we have." In the silent depths beyond the moon of Vanguard 9, the UNS Titan's Wrath glided forward like a shadow of judgment. Admiral Helena Graves stood on her command deck, calm as ever. Her silver-gray eyes reflected the dim lights of the control panels. Around her, the crew worked with quiet focus, their movement steady and sure. "Aura," she said, speaking to the ship's AI. "Status report." The smooth, clear voice of Aura filled the room. "Primary weapon systems recharging. Hull integrity at 98%. Enemy fleet attempting reformation. Estimated time before second assault, 12 minutes. Helena nodded. "They'll come again. They always do." Her second officer, Commander Lewis, frowned. "Ma'am, we could finish them now. One more shot and the entire Dominion Armada would be gone." Helena looked out through the observation window, where debris from destroyed ships floated like cold snowflakes. "No, Commander. Power isn't only about destroying. It's about knowing when to stop." Lewis hesitated but nodded. Every officer aboard the Titan's Wrath knew Helena's rule. Humanity fought not for conquest, but for survival. And for peace. On the other side of the battlefield, Lord Vecra's fleet reformed into tight formations. They had lost hundreds of ships, but thousands remained. A storm of energy built within their reactors. The Dominion ships began to shine with deadly light. "Target the human warship," Vecra shouted. "If they think they can humiliate the Dominion, we will show them the cost of defiance." But fear had crept into his fleet. The alien captains whispered to each other on private channels. They had seen the impossible. They had seen one human shot tear through physics itself. Some even considered retreating. Vecra's voice roared through the command network. Anyone who turns away will be erased from the Dominion. His pride left no room for mercy, and so the second wave began. In the space between stars, silence broke. Thousands of plasma beams and ion torpedoes screamed toward the Titan's wrath. The human ship did not move. It seemed almost still, like a giant waiting for a child's tantrum to end. Inside, the crew watched as the holographic map filled with red trails of enemy fire. "Shields up," Helena ordered calmly. The blue light of the ship's defensive barrier shimmered like a crystal dome. Explosions thundered against it, lighting up the dark emptiness. Yet the shield held strong, not even flickering. Commander Lewis grinned slightly. "They're wasting energy," Helena didn't smile. "Let them tire themselves out. The more they fight, the more they show what they fear." Aura's voice came again. "Admiral, the enemy fleet has committed 78% of its firepower. Their power reserves will drop below half in 5 minutes." "Good," Helena replied. "Prepare our counterattack, but only non-lethal rounds." The crew looked surprised. "Non-lethal, ma'am?" "Yes," she said softly. "It's time to teach them, not destroy them." Moments later, the Titan's wrath came alive again. Its hull panels shifted, opening to reveal dozens of smaller weapon pods. But instead of deadly plasma or railgun charges, these fired electromagnetic pulses and energy nets. Tools meant to disable, not kill. Bright arcs of light crossed the battlefield, wrapping around Dominion ships. One after another, their systems went dark. Engines failed, weapons powered down, and their ships drifted helplessly. Vecra's voice echoed through the comms in rage. "What is this? Why are they not finishing us?" Then the human transmission came again, clear and calm, echoing across every Dominion frequency. "We do not seek your end, but do not mistake mercy for weakness." For a moment there was silence. Across the stars, every soldier, every captain, every leader of the Dominion felt something they had never felt before. Shame. Still, Lord Vecra's fury burned. "No mercy," he shouted. "They insult us by sparing us." He turned to his tactical officer. "Activate the singularity cannon." His officer hesitated. "Sir, that weapon is unstable. It will consume everything, even our own fleet." "Do it," Vecra demanded. Back on the Titan's wrath, Aura detected the energy spike instantly. "Admiral, enemy flagship is preparing a Singularity-class weapon. Estimated detonation radius 1 million kilometers." Helena's eyes narrowed. "They're desperate. They'll destroy themselves and us to protect their pride." Commander Lewis's voice rose in panic. "Ma'am, we have to stop it now." Helena took a deep breath. The deck was silent. Every eye turned to her. Then in her steady voice she said, "Aura, prepare the Singularity Dissolver. Target enemy flagship core." "Confirmed," replied Aura. "Fire when ready." For the second time, Titan's wrath fired. It was not as bright or as long as the first shot, but it was faster, sharper, and more precise. The beam struck directly into the core of Eternal Flame. The Dominion flagship's weapon never had the chance to fire. Its unstable energy folded in on itself, collapsing the Singularity into a harmless burst of light. When the glare faded, only wreckage remained. The rest of the Dominion fleet stopped firing. Their commanders stared in silence. The arrogance that once filled their hearts was gone. Admiral Helena exhaled quietly. Aura broadcast this message. Across the shattered communication channels of the Dominion, her calm voice spread once again. "Power without wisdom brings only ruin. We fight to survive, not to dominate. Let this be the last battle between us." No one replied. No one dared. The alien fleets began to retreat slowly, their engines burning dimly as they turned away from the battlefield. Some ships even sent signals of surrender, asking for mercy instead of revenge. As silence returned to the void, the crew of the Titan's wrath stood together, watching the distant lights fade. Commander Lewis finally spoke. "Do you think they'll come back, Admiral?" Helena looked at the stars. "They will remember today. And sometimes remembering is stronger than fear," Aura added softly. Message sent to all frequencies. Galactic channels show multiple empires requesting peace communication. Helena smiled slightly. "Then humanity has done its part." She turned to her crew. "Stand down weapons. Begin rescue operations for any survivors. War is easy. What we do next will define us." The crew nodded, proud but humble. Hours later, in the stillness of space, the Titan's wrath moved among drifting wrecks, sending drones to pull wounded aliens from the cold. The same warship that had unleashed unimaginable power now offered compassion. And far away among the surviving Dominion ships, stories began to spread. They spoke not only of a weapon that broke the stars, but of a people who chose not to destroy when they easily could have. The name human became something new among the galaxies, a symbol not of danger, but of balance, strength, and mercy. And so, the arrogance of the Dominion fell that day not under fire, but under the weight of something far stronger, humanity's heart. Days passed after the great battle at Vanguard 9. The stars were quiet again. No more explosions, no more cries across the comms. The cold silence of space returned, but it was not the same silence. It was the silence of respect, of reflection, of change. The UNS Titan's wrath drifted near the ruined remains of the Dominion Armada. Its vast hull glowed faintly in the light of the nearby sun. Drones moved across the debris field, collecting survivors from shattered ships, human and alien alike. Inside the command deck, Admiral Helena Graves stood beside the large viewing window. Beyond the glass she saw twisted metal, drifting hull fragments and the faint blinking lights of disabled ships. Her crew worked silently behind her, running rescue operations and transmitting medical aid to those who once tried to destroy them. Commander Lewis approached with a soft step. "Ma'am, the last rescue pods are secured. We found over 2,000 alien survivors. Most are injured but stable." Helena nodded. "Good, prepare medical bays. No one is left behind, not even our enemies." Lewis smiled faintly. "You really believe they'll remember our kindness?" Helena looked at him, her gray eyes steady. "They will. Mercy leaves a deeper mark than destruction ever could." Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. Thousands of empires and alliances had watched from afar, their communication arrays capturing every broadcast, every flash of light from the fight. They saw humanity's warship, a single vessel standing against an empire that ruled thousands of worlds. They saw it fire once, then again, and they saw what came after, mercy instead of domination. For the first time in galactic memory, the rulers of countless worlds spoke the same words in hushed voices. The humans did not conquer, they protected. It changed everything. Far from the human-controlled systems, in the core world of the Zereth Dominion, the High Council gathered in silence. The great halls that once echoed with pride and arrogance now felt hollow. Lord Vecra's seat at the council table was empty, his ship lost in the battle he refused to abandon. The council leader, Archon Valareth, spoke slowly. "For centuries we believed power meant fear, that others should kneel when they saw our fleets. But humanity, they showed us something we had forgotten." One of the younger council members frowned. "Mercy, compassion? Such things make empires weak." Valareth looked toward the stars visible through the great window. "No, such things make them eternal." He paused. "Send a message to Earth. We wish to speak peace." Back aboard the Titan's wrath, Aura, the ship's AI interrupted the quiet hum of the bridge. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Zereth Dominion. They request direct diplomatic contact." Commander Lewis raised his eyebrows. "Peace talks? From them?" Helena smiled slightly. "Every empire learns sooner or later. Open the channel." The holographic display flickered to life, showing the image of Archon Valareth, a tall, silver-skinned being with glowing eyes that now looked weary, not proud. "Admiral Helena Graves," he said in a respectful tone. "The Dominion acknowledges defeat, but more than that, we acknowledge understanding. We came to destroy your people, and instead we have learned from them." Helena folded her hands behind her back. "If you wish for peace, humanity will listen. We do not seek vengeance," the alien bowed his head. "Then let this day mark a new beginning for both our species." The screen faded. For the first time in history, the Dominion had surrendered, not because they were forced, but because they had changed. Later that day, as the Titan's wrath moved away from the battlefield, the human colony on Vanguard 9 sent a signal of gratitude. The colonists came out of their shelters, looking up at the sky where the great warship passed overhead. Children waved toward the stars, unaware that they had just witnessed a moment that would echo for centuries. Down below, old farmers and young engineers alike whispered prayers of thanks. not just to the soldiers aboard the Titan's Wrath, but to humanity itself for standing tall when no one else could. Inside the warship, life slowly returned to normal. Crew members who had once expected death now smiled and laughed again. The dining hall, once quiet with tension, filled with light conversations and the smell of real coffee. Commander Lewis sat with a few officers talking softly. "I still can't believe it," one said. "The Dominion, the most powerful empire in the galaxy, now asking for peace. Because of one ship," Lewis nodded. "Not because of a ship," he said. "Because of who we are." At the same time, in her private cabin, Admiral Helena wrote her final report. Her hands moved slowly over the tablet as she recorded her words. "The power of humanity does not lie in our weapons, but in our choices. We showed the galaxy that power can protect, not only destroy. The Titan's Wrath fired once, but that single act has echoed through the stars." She paused, then added one last line. "If they remember us, let them remember not our strength but our mercy." She signed her name and closed the report. Weeks passed. The Titan's Wrath returned to Earth's orbit. The ship was met not with cheering parades or loud celebrations, but with quiet respect. People looked up at the sky and knew they were safer because of those who served. The world governments held a ceremony in the United Nations spire, now extending high above the blue planet. Helena was invited to speak, but she declined. Instead, she sent a simple message to all human colonies. "Our mission is complete. Remember that peace is the greatest victory." Meanwhile, across alien worlds, stories grew. Children of other species played with toy models of the Titan's Wrath. Scholars studied human history, searching for the secret that made them so resilient. Poets and philosophers wrote about the day the warship fired once. It was said that even pirates and warlords in far-off sectors stopped their fights for a while, remembering what the humans had done. In time, new alliances formed. Trade routes opened between humanity and species that once saw them as prey. The galaxy began to change slowly but surely, shaped by an idea stronger than any weapon, the idea of unity. One evening, Helena stood alone on a quiet observation deck of the Titan's Wrath. The ship had been retired from active battle, now orbiting peacefully as a monument of courage. The stars glittered beyond the window, each one shining like a story untold. Aura's soft voice broke the silence. "Admiral, peace agreements have been signed in 5 major sectors. The galaxy is quiet again." Helena smiled faintly. "Good. Let's hope it stays that way. Would you like me to power down the main cannons permanently?" Aura asked. Helena looked out at the endless stars. "No, keep them ready, but sleeping. Just in case someone forgets." The AI responded, "Understood." She turned to leave, but paused and whispered softly, almost to herself. "They thought they'd seen power, until humanity's warship fired once. Let them never see it again." Far across the galaxy, deep in alien space, the wreckage of the old Dominion fleet still floated silently. Over time, those metal ruins became a place of remembrance. Travelers from many species came to see the graveyard of ships, to honor the lives lost, and the lesson learned. No one touched the wreckage of Eternal Flame, Lord Vecra's flagship. On its blackened hull, someone had carved a single line, written in human language and translated into thousands of tongues. "Mercy is the mark of true power." Years later, long after Admiral Helena Graves had passed into legend, a new generation of explorers carried her message beyond known space. Whenever they met new species or crossed dangerous sectors, they carried a symbol on their ships, the crest of the Titan's Wrath surrounded by stars. It became not just a mark of fear, but of hope. And in distant galaxies, when people told stories of humanity, they did not speak of the weapons or the battles. They spoke of a single day, a single shot, and a single decision that changed the galaxy forever. They spoke of how one warship fired once, and humanity's light was never forgotten.